Good afternoon, students. Welcome to Excel PU College. As we are beginning with the class, coming to the subject, biology. You have already studied the chapter life process. Yes, the chapter life process, where we study about all the activity that is taking place inside the body. It might be digestion, or you can call it as nutrition, you can call it as respiration, then excretion or circulation, correct? Or in case of plants, you study it as transport. Now, coming to the concept of respiration, what is respiration? Have you studied this topic already? Yes? Yes, anyone can answer. Pranav? Yes, class have already started. We have started with the class. Coming to the topic, under science, we have biology. Under biology, we are studying a chapter life process. Under life process, we are studying the concept respiration. Now, this comes under your first part, correct? You have part 1 and part 2. In the first part, the fifth chapter, you have life process. Now, what is respiration? Can we say, before the definition of respiration, why do we need or why we have to respire, or why do we need respiration? All the organism require energy. Okay, for what purpose we have to respire? Generally, for the body function. If any body function has to take place, our body requires energy. Yes, Pranav has answered. Breakdown of food in the presence of oxygen to obtain energy. That is correct. Very good. Correct answer. Before that, we need energy. I'll write the key points here. For the purpose of energy. Why do we need energy? For what purpose do we need energy? For the movement. If we have to move from one place to another, or if I have to write anything on board, if I have to lift my hands, any movement, we need energy. Then, for the purpose of growth, yes, for the purpose of growth, we need energy. Okay, each and every cell, okay, to grow, or if the cell has to grow, if the cell has to divide, again, we need energy. Then, for repair, if anything has to be repaired in the body, for the purpose of repair, reproduction, for the purpose of reproduction, we need energy. Then, and to maintain the body function, okay, to maintain the body function. Can you tell me which are the body functions? Which are the body functions? Yes, anyone can answer which are the body functions? Yes, moving from one place to another is a body function, correct? Then, digestion, okay, it is a physiological function. You can call it as a physiological function, a collective function, a specialized function, digestion. Then for the purpose of respiration, yes, all this comes under the body function. Now the question is, from where do we get this energy? This energy comes from oxidation of a food molecule inside the cell. What is the meaning of oxidation of food molecules inside the cell? Here, generally, the glucose. From where do we get glucose? From the food we take in, correct? The food we take in will be broken down. Generally, the complex food molecules will be broken down into the simpler forms. These simpler forms are nothing but either it will be in the form of glucose, or it will be in the form of sucrose or maltose, any of the form, okay, or glucose, galactose. Okay, now coming to the glucose, this glucose will be broken down in the presence of oxygen, in the presence of oxygen into what? First into pyruvate. First it will be broken down into pyruvate, and then further it will be broken down into carbon dioxide, water and energy, correct? Now, when the glucose will be broken down into a pyruvate, it releases energy. Okay, it releases energy which is generally stored in the form of ATP. How is it stored? Yes, how is it stored? It is stored in the form of ATP, and you call this ATP as energy currency of the body or the cell. It is called as energy currency. Why you call it as energy currency? Because energy will be stored in the form of ATP, and whenever our body requires energy, namge yavaga energy bekagtade, during that time this ATP will be broken down and it gives energy, or you can utilize the ATP whenever our body requires energy. Is it clear? Okay, this is general what we have spoken here. Now coming to the definition, exact definition for respiration, you can say respiration is a biological process. Okay, it is a biological process of oxidization of glucose to release energy. That means glucose will be utilizing oxygen and it will be broken down. It will during the breakdown it also releases energy which is used by the organism to carry out the vital function. Okay, for any functions we need energy, and that energy we get from the breakdown of glucose. Okay, now is there any difference between the respiration and breathing? ATP is a, yes, Danu P has asked me what is ATP. ATP is nothing but the energy which is released, okay, which will be stored in the form of adenosine triphosphate, ATP, which is called as energy currency of the cell. Clear? Yes. Now, we'll move to the next concept. Clear with the introduction part? It is just an introduction, a brief introduction saying that what is respiration or why do we need respiration. So, we need respiration because we take up oxygen during respiration, and that oxygen is very much essential. That oxygen is very much essential during the breakdown of food. And why the food has to be broken down? Because it releases energy. And why do we need energy? Again, energy is required for all the body activity. It might be the reproduction, it might be the repair, it might be the growth, or to maintain the body function. Is it clear? I hope this part is clear. Yes, Pranav has told breathing means, yeah, we have not spoken about breathing yet. Okay, I have just asked you what is the difference between the respiration and breathing. Now, coming to the difference between, there is a difference between a breathing and respiration. One is a physical process, the other one is a biological process. Yes, Pranav has asked, but respiration is breakdown of food to obtain and provide energy for the body activity. Good. Yes, breathing, where the food will be broken down in the presence of oxygen to release energy, correct? When we say breathing, it is inhalation and exhalation. Coming to the first point, breathing is a physical process involving an inhalation and exhalation of air. When we say breathing, why it is called as a physical process? Okay, because here through the nostril, when we inhale and exhale the air in the presence of, with the help of muscles, okay, or you can say by the help of trachea or any respiratory structure. Okay, that is why it is called as a physical process, and it involves inhalation. We'll study what is inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhalation. But when we speak about respiration, it is a biochemical process, correct? It is a biochemical process. Why is it called a biochemical process? Because here the chemical reaction will take place. That means the breakdown of glucose will take place. So that is why it is called as a biochemical process, where the food is oxidized to release energy. That means the food will be broken down into the simpler form first, and that simpler form will be further breaking down into the energy or the pyruvates or the carbon dioxide which is released. Now, coming to the breathing, as you all know, it takes place through the respiratory organs. We'll study about the respiratory organs, but remember it involves the respiratory organs. Can you tell me which are the respiratory organs? Which are the respiratory organs? Anyone can answer? Anyone? Any of the respiratory organs? It might be in the human beings, yes. Soumya has answered lungs, nose. Now, coming to the respiratory organs, in case there are various respiratory organs, the respiratory organs varies according to their habitat. Okay, if the organism live in the water, their respiratory structure will be different. We'll list out some of the respiratory organs. In the different animals. The one which you know, you can answer. Yes, physical process means, I'll explain about the physical and biochemical process. First, we'll speak about the respiratory organs. Once I finish this, we'll get back to that point again. Coming to the respiratory organs, in the lower organism, for example, some respire through body surface. Some respire through body surface. Okay, the exchange of gases takes place in the body surface itself, and in some case, some respire through their skin. Skin. Which example you can give? You can give earthworm. In earthworm, you can see the exchange of gases takes place through their skin. And then we have respiring through gills. Can you give example for respiration through gills? Which, and yes, gills in fish. Soumya has answered gills. Very good. Gills in fishes. In various fishes you can see they respire through gills. And then book gills. Very good. Book gills. In arthropods you can see they respire through book gills. Example you can give king crab. In crabs you can see their respiratory structure, that is nothing but book gills. Then we have book lungs. They are respiring through book lungs. You can see in spiders, scorpions, you can see respiration through book lungs. Other than this, there is respiration through trachea. In insects, they respire through trachea. And then at last we have the pulmonary respiration. What is pulmonary respiration? Respiration through lungs, or respiring through lungs. Okay, then we have pulmonary respiration. These are the various respiratory structure in various animals based on their habitat and how their body is arranged. Body structure is arranged. Okay, there are various respiratory organs and various respiratory structures. Okay, repeat, which are the various respiratory organs? We have, they respire. In some of the lower organisms, the exchange of gases takes place through body surface. So, the respiration takes place through the body surface. And coming to the next one, the respiration through skin. They are general body surface or through skin, moist skin. When we say skin, generally it is moist skin, which is in case of earthworm, or you can give one more example even in frog. Even in the frog, they respire through skin. And then we have gills. In the fishes or in the aquatic animals, they generally respire through gills. And then we have one more, that is book gills. Book gills is also a respiratory structure which you can see in the king crab. And book lungs, it is also a respiratory structure where you can find in the spiders. And then we have a tracheal respiration, respiring through trachea. And example for the tracheal respiration, you can see insects. In insects, the respiration is a tracheal respiration. They have a long tube-like structure called as trachea, and the exchange of gases takes place within the trachea. And then we have pulmonary respiration, respiration by lungs. Can you give example of animals which has pulmonary respiration? Yes, I want you to answer which animals have pulmonary respiration or which respire through lungs. What is the difference between gills and book gills? Here they have a feather-like structure in the form of folded pages, okay, which is called as book gills. Okay, it is arranged in the form of folded pages. That's why it is called as a book gills. Humans, very good. Humans have pulmonary respiration. Or can we say all the mammals, they have pulmonary respiration? Aves and mammals. Aves, when we say aves, it is nothing but birds and mammals. Okay, generally we have a pulmonary respiration. Correct? Okay, coming to the next. No energy, clear with this? Yeah, sorry, I forgot. Takes place through the respiratory organs. We have spoken about the respiratory organs, and respiring through the lungs and gills here they have given. We have briefly studied which are the various respiratory organs. Then, in case of respiration, where the respiration breakdown of glucose takes place, it takes place inside the mitochondria. Where does it take place? Where the respiration takes place. When we say breathing, it takes place through the respiratory organs. Now the question is, where exactly the respiration will take place? That means the biochemical process, the breakdown of molecule will take place. Where does it take place? It takes place inside the cell. Okay, that is in the mitochondria. Okay, where does it take place? It takes place in the mitochondria. Okay, write down these points which are the respiratory organs. Take down these points. Take down the points which are the respiratory organs. Take down the points which are the respiratory organs: body surface, skin, gills, book gills. Yes. Okay. Now we have asked what is physical process and biochemical process. Here when we say physical process, here no chemicals are involved or the product is not formed here. Okay, there is no product formed. Okay, only by involving the muscles, if the action takes place in respect to breathing, then you call it as a physical process. Here what happens in case of biochemical process, there is glucose, correct? And this glucose will be broken down into what? Pyruvate. That means, can we say the substance is present and that gives rise to one of the product in the presence of oxygen. That is called as a biochemical process. Here what happens? Only the oxygen will be there. The oxygen, the air which is rich in the oxygen will enter the body, and the air which is rich in the carbon dioxide will leave the body out. That means this oxygen will not give, or it is not broken down, or it will not form a product. So it is called as a physical process. Here what happens? The glucose will be broken down into the new product, that is a pyruvate. So if the new product is formed or the product will be formed, then you call it as a biochemical process. That means the breakdown of a molecule will take place there. Here there is no breakdown of molecule, there is no formation of new product, only the movement of air. That means the atmospheric rich oxygen air will move in, and the alveolar rich air, that is carbon dioxide air, will move out. That is called as a physical process. Is it clear? Yes, ma'am. Example for the body surface, respiring through the body surface in lower organism, you can write it as platyhelminthes. In the lower organism, you can see respiring through body surface. Now, difference between physical and chemical process is clear. Pranav, Upendra has asked. Yes, you have asked. Jyoti has asked to explain it in Kannada. So when we say breathing anta helidre ನಾವು ಆಕ್ಸಿಜನ್ ಅನ್ನ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಗಾಳಿಯನ್ನ ಇನ್ಹೇಲ್ ಮಾಡುವಂತದ್ದು, ತಗೊಳ್ಳುವಂತದ್ದು. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯಾದ ಕೆಮಿಕಲ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ವಾಲ್ವ್ ಆಗಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಥವಾ ಕೆಮಿಕಲ್ಸ್ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಡೌನ್ ಆಗಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ, ಫಿಸಿಕಲ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್. ಯು ಕಾಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಫಿಸಿಕಲ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್. ಅದೇ ನಾವು ಬಯೋಕೆಮಿಕಲ್ ರೆಸ್ಪಿರೇಷನ್ ಅನ್ನ ಬಯೋಕೆಮಿಕಲ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಇದು ಸೆಲ್ಲಿನ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಗ್ಲೂಕೋಸ್ ಬೇರೆ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಆಗಿ ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಆಗೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಬಯೋಕೆಮಿಕಲ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್? Yes, is it clear? You want me to explain this again, physical and biochemical process, or shall I move to the next point? You want me to explain any of the concept up to here? If not, we'll move to the next point. Yes, coming to breathing. Yeah, we'll move to, yes, you have told, we'll move to the next point. No energy is released during breathing. Now, when we just inspire and expire, ನಾವು ಗಾಳಿ ಒಳಗಡೆ ತಕೊಂಡು ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಹಾಕುವಾಗ ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಎನರ್ಜಿ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗ್ತದಾ? No, there is no energy produced. But energy will be produced when the respiration, that means glucose, when it is broken down into the pyruvate and with the carbon dioxide and energy, the energy will be produced. Correct? Energy. What happens to this energy? That energy will be generally stored in the form of ATP. Okay, that energy will be stored in the form of ATP. So whenever our body requires energy, this ATP will be further used. ಯಾವಾಗ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ, ಆ ಗ್ಲೂಕೋಸ್ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಡೌನ್ ಆದಾಗ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ, ಪೈರುವೇಟ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಆದಾಗ ಎನರ್ಜಿ ರಿಲೀಸ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. What do we do with that energy? Energy, whenever if it we cannot utilize all the energy at a time. ನಾವೆಲ್ಲಾ ಎನರ್ಜಿಯನ್ನ ಒಂದೇ ಸಲ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. That is why ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ, ಆ ಎನರ್ಜಿಯನ್ನ it will be storing that. And in what form the energy will be stored? Yes, can anyone tell me in what form the energy is stored? I've already explained. ನಾನು already explain ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇನೆ ನಿಮಗೆ. You have to tell me in what form the energy is stored in our body. Yes, Soumya, Pranav, Shilpa, Jyoti, anyone can answer. In what form the energy will be stored? The released energy will be stored in the form of, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಗ್ಲೂಕೋಸ್ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಡೌನ್ ಆಯ್ತು, ಎನರ್ಜಿ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಈ ಎನರ್ಜಿ ಯಾವ್ದ್ರ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಆಗಿ? ಎಸ್, ವೆರಿ ಗುಡ್. ವರದರಾಜು, ವೆರಿ ಗುಡ್. Hamashik, sorry. Rangaswamy, Mamata, yes, all the answers are right. All have answered it as ATP. And what happens to this? The energy is stored in the form of ATP. And whenever our body requires energy, ನಮ್ಮ ಬಾಡಿಗೆ ಯಾವಾಗ ಎನರ್ಜಿ ಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ, this ATP will be used. Correct? Okay. Here what happens? There is no energy because it is a physical process. ಅಲ್ಲಿ physical process ಆಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಯಾವುದೇ chemicals involvement ಇಲ್ಲ, enzymes ಇಲ್ಲ, ಯಾವುದೇ chemical reaction ಆಗದೇ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ there is no energy. There is no point of energy here. Okay. Now, example we have inhalation and exhalation. What is inhalation? Intake of atmospheric air which is rich in oxygen, and exhalation, releasing the alveolar air which is rich in carbon dioxide. Inhalation ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಆಕ್ಸಿಜನ್ ಅನ್ನ ಒಳಗಡೆ ತಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು, exhalation ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಡೈಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ಅನ್ನ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಹಾಕೋದು. ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್? Okay. Now, example for respiration we have oxidation of glucose inside the cell, utilization of glucose. This part is clear with the second point. In the first point we have studied, the introduction, why we have to respire and what is respiration. In the second part we have studied what is the difference between breathing and respiration. Now we'll move to the next one, the types of respiration. There are how many types of respiration? How many types of, we are not speaking about respiratory structures now. Types of respiration in the presence of oxygen and absence of oxygen. So, there are mainly two types of respiration. Okay, there are mainly two types of respiration in the presence or it is based on the presence or absence of oxygen. So, aerobic respiration. So, can we say it takes place in the presence of oxygen? Okay, aerobic respiration means the respiration which involves oxygen. So, we have the food or the glucose is completely broken down into carbon dioxide and water. How the aerobic respiration will take place? The same reaction as you know. Glucose. You have this equation with you, correct? In the presence of oxygen. In the presence of oxygen. The respiration is called aerobic respiration, where it will be broken down into pyruvate. Pyruvate will be broken down into carbon dioxide and water and energy. Correct. Then a large amount of energy is released, and where it occurs, as you already know, aerobic respiration is nothing but the general respiration which we studied now, and it occurs in the mitochondria. Where it occurs? It occurs in the mitochondria. Clear? Okay. Then we have anaerobic respiration. Where you can find anaerobic respiration? Yes, anyone can answer? Anaerobic respiration. What is anaerobic respiration? It takes place in the absence of oxygen. Here, there is no oxygen, absence of oxygen. That is why we use the word anaerobic. Aerobic is nothing but in the presence of oxygen. Anaerobic means in the absence of oxygen. There is no oxygen. Yes, Prasad Rao has answered. Anaerobic respiration is metabolic process where cells produce energy, correct? Now, the food is partially broken down into the product like lactic acid or the alcohol and the carbon dioxide. What happens in the anaerobic respiration? There is no oxygen. The glucose will be broken down into either lactic acid or into the alcohol. In case of fermentation, okay, in the yeast, okay, if you see glucose, which will be broken down into pyruvate, in yeast, it undergoes fermentation, correct? It involves fermentation and it produces alcohol. Okay, it forms the alcohol. Similarly, in our muscles, okay, in our muscles, it will be broken down into lactic acid. So, in the various condition, the breakdown of glucose also changes. In aerobic respiration, it forms carbon dioxide and energy. Here it forms alcohol. In yeast, due to the fermentation, it forms alcohol. In the muscles, it forms lactic acid. So, here there is no involvement of oxygen. Illi oxygen in involvement illa. That is why the process is called as anaerobic respiration. The respiration is called as anaerobic respiration. Okay, the example they have given in yeast fermentation, the glucose will form alcohol, carbon dioxide and energy. In human muscles, it forms lactic acid and energy. That is what I have explained here. A simple concept, aerobic and anaerobic. Aerobic means in the presence of oxygen, anaerobic means in the absence of oxygen. Even in the absence of oxygen, in the various conditions, the product will vary. In yeast, the fermentation will take place. So, the product is alcohol, carbon dioxide and energy. In muscles, the product is lactic acid and energy. That means all the anaerobic respiration will not give the same product. It is based on where it is formed or how it is formed. There is a note, the lactic acid accumulation in muscles causes muscle fatigue or cramps. When the muscles are under continuous function, the accumulation of lactic acid, okay, will lead to the tiredness of the muscles. Fatigue is nothing but tiredness. Cramps is nothing but which holds, okay, tightens the muscle. Okay, this is about the aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Yes, it takes place in the cytoplasm, correct? Why does the aerobic respiration takes place in the mitochondria? Because the ATP which is stored, okay, which will be formed in the mitochondria. The process of formation which takes place in the mitochondria. Yes. Now coming to the concept of yes, yes, aerobic respiration. Yes, most of you are answering right. If I have not taken up your name, I am sorry, but all the answers which you have given here is correct. Okay, now coming to the human respiratory system, we will follow the NCERT textbook according to NCERT. Now, the human respiratory system is specialized to exchange the gases efficiently between the body and the environment. You know that the atmospheric rich air has to be taken in, and the body which produces the carbon dioxide has to be thrown out. It should not stay in the body for the longer time. So, our body has a specialized system for it. Now, which are the parts of our respiratory system? The nostrils or the nasal cavity. Human respiratory system. The human respiratory system begins with a pair of nostrils. What are nostrils? The two openings which you can see here. Okay, these openings are called as nostrils. A pair of nostrils. This nostrils give rise to the nasal passage. Nasal passage. We have a pair of nostrils. Nostril give rise to the inside. Inside the nostrils, the passage, what is it called? It is called as nasal passage. Now, this nasal passage is provided with, what does this nasal passage have? It has a minute hair, then it also has the glands which release mucus to trap the dust particles. So, what is the function of nostrils? The air enters the body through the nostrils. From which part the air will enter? The air in human respiratory system network of organs include nose, mouth, lungs, trachea. Yes, Prasad has answered. It has a collective organs. I agree with that. We'll just speak about the organs now. The major organs, the nostrils, or the nostrils are also called as the nasal cavity. What are these opening called as? Either nostril or the nasal cavity. What is the function of this nostril? It helps in the intake of air. The air will enter the body through nostrils. The dust and the microbes are filtered by the hair and the mucus. These nasal passage, as it enters the nostrils, it moves to the nasal passage, and these nasal passage are provided with the hairs and the glands. These hair or the mucus which is produced by the gland will trap the dust particles. What does it do? It will trap the dust particles. Now, the air which enters to the nostrils will move to the long tube-like structure which is called as a pharynx. So, the next it will move to the pharynx, and the pharynx, you know, which is generally present here, it is a common passage for the food and air. That means the mouth also connects to the pharynx, the nasal passage also connects through the pharynx. So, can you say here the food, if this is the mouth, the food will enter the pharynx. Correct. At the same time, the air which has come here, it also moves to the pharynx. So, can we say pharynx is a common passage for the food and air? Yes. Correct. It is a common passage for the food and air. The next we have the larynx. You can see larynx. Larynx is nothing but the sound box, or you can call it as a voice box. Okay, pharynx give rise to the bulged structure here. Generally, you can feel that vibration when you speak. If you touch your throat part here, you can feel that vibration. That is nothing but a larynx, which is nothing but a voice box, or you can call it as a sound box where the sound is produced. Then next, through the larynx further there is a long extension, a long tube-like structure called as trachea. The trachea is also called as sorry, it is also called as windpipe. Trachea is also called as windpipe. What is it called? Windpipe. Now, this trachea will connect to it is between the pharynx and the bronchi or the bronchioles. So, generally it is a connection between the pharynx and the lungs. Okay. Now, this trachea, you know, this trachea is made up of muscles. Now, whenever we inhale the air in the complete pressure. So, there is a chance of a trachea where it can burst out or it can be damaged. So, this trachea is provided with a C-shaped 16 to 20 C-shaped cartilaginous ring. Cartilaginous ring. Cartilaginous ring. Okay. Now, why do we have this C-shaped cartilaginous ring for trachea? You have this way. Okay, this way. There will be a C-shaped cartilaginous ring, and that ring will prevent the trachea from collapsing. Is it clear? Also esophagus. Esophagus is food pipe, which is generally present at the back of trachea. Okay. If this is trachea, at the back of the trachea you have esophagus. Since we are speaking only about the respiratory system, we'll speak only about the trachea here. Is that fine? Yes, rings of cartilage, C-shaped muscles. Very good. The answer is correct. Okay, we are not speaking. Is it clear? This part is clear? Yes. If you want me to explain in Kannada, just listen once. A brief explanation. Now, ಉಸಿರಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ we have a pair of nostrils. ನಮ್ಮ ಮೂಗಲ್ಲಿ nostrils ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಇದನ್ನ ನಾವು nostrils ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಏರ್ ಎಂಟರ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಬಾಡಿಗೆ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಆ ಪ್ಯಾಸೇಜ್ ಅನ್ನು ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ? ಏರ್ ಎಂಟರ್ ಆಗುವ ಈ ರೀಜನ್ ಅನ್ನ nasal passage. From the nasal passage ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಇರುವಂತದ್ದು pharynx. ಈ ರೀಜನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವಂತದ್ದು pharynx. ಆ ರೀಜನ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಾವು ಫುಡ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಏರ್ ಎರಡು ಒಂದೇ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಪಾಸ್ ಆಗೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಕಾಮನ್ ಪ್ಯಾಸೇಜ್ ಫಾರ್ ಫುಡ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಏರ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಲ್ಯಾರಿಂಗ್ಸ್. ಅದರ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಒಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ತರ ಇರ್ತದೆ, ಅದರಿಂದ ಸೌಂಡ್ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಅದನ್ನ ಸೌಂಡ್ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಆರ್ ಯು ಕಾಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ಲ್ಯಾರಿಂಗ್ಸ್. ಅಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಅದರಿಂದ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಉದ್ದ ಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ತರ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಇದೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ವಿಂಡ್ ಪೈಪ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನ. ಓಕೆ, ನಾವು ಗಾಳಿಯನ್ನ ಅದರಿಂದ ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಮೂವ್ ಆಗೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಕಾಲ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಸ್ ವಿಂಡ್ ಪೈಪ್. ಓಕೆ, ಆ ವಿಂಡ್ ಪೈಪ್ ನಾವು ತುಂಬಾ ಫೋರ್ಸ್ಫುಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಗಾಳಿ ತಗೊಳ್ಳುವಾಗ ಬರ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ರೀಸನ್ಗೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಇಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ 16 to 20 C-shaped cartilaginous ring, which is also called as hyaline cartilaginous ring. ಅದನ್ನ ಇನ್ನೇನಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೇವೆ ನಾವು? hyaline cartilaginous ring. Okay, it is called as hyaline cartilaginous ring. Is it clear? Yes. Next we have bronchi. Now we have studied if this is trachea. You know the trachea is provided with the C-shaped ring. The trachea at the center, it will bifurcate into left and right bronchi. Okay, first ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ, ಆ trachea ಎರಡು ಬ್ರಾಂಚ್ ಆಗಿ ಡಿವೈಡ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. It divides into two branch, which is called as bronchi. It is called as bronchi. Okay, we have the branch of trachea which will lead into the lungs. That means which will further move to the lungs, and you call that branch as bronchi. This is trachea. Trachea will bifurcate or it will it will divide into two parts. One is to the right, other to the left, and you call it as bronchi. Then this bronchi further give rise to the smaller branches. Okay, there arises a smaller branches, and you call these smaller branches as bronchioles. What do you call this smaller branches? Bronchioles. It is called as bronchioles. Is it clear? Long tube-like structure is nothing but trachea. Trachea will further divide into bronchi. Bronchi give rise to the branches called as bronchioles. Then this at the end of the bronchioles, we have in your PUC, you will study more about this. You have primary bronchioles, secondary and tertiary bronchioles. But for the 10th standard, you just remember the bronchi will give rise to the branch structure called as bronchioles. Now, this bronchioles at the end give rise to the irregular shaped bag-like structure. At the end of bronchioles, you have a irregular shaped bag-like structure, and this irregular shaped bag-like structure, which is called as alveoli. What is it called? Alveoli. It is a site of exchange of air. It is where exactly the oxygen and carbon dioxide get exchanged between the body. Illi enaagtade body alli carbon dioxide ಮತ್ತು oxygen exchange ಆಗೋದು. So alveoli, it is a tiny air sac with the thin walls and are rich with the rich blood supply and the site for the gaseous exchange. So you can say it is a thin walled bag. Why it is called thin walled? Because the exchange has to take place. Since it has no particular shape, so you can call it as an irregular shaped bag-like structure. Yes. Mainly, it is a site of exchange of gases. Very good. Someone has answered here. Yes, Shilpa T. It is exchange of gases takes place in the alveoli. Yes, it is a site of exchange of air. Now, this gets enclosed. This bronchioles get enclosed inside a pyramid-like structure, and you call that pyramid-like structure as lungs. What do you call it as? Lungs. Is it clear? It is called as lungs. Now here, yes. Now here, when we speak about lungs, it is protected dorsally. When we say dorsally, which is the dorsal side? The back portion is called the dorsal side, and the front portion is called the ventral side. So when we say lungs, dorsally it is protected by vertebral column. Dorsally it is protected by what? Vertebral column, or you can say vertebrae, or you can write it as vertebrae to be easy. Vertebrae, dorsally by vertebrae, and then ventrally by the chest bone called as sternum, the flat bone which is present in the chest, which is called as sternum, and laterally by ribs. Laterally by ribs. Is it clear? Okay, lungs, it is protected dorsally by vertebrae. Hindagade nodidre illi vertebrae irtade. When we say the front portion, the chest portion, you have the chest bone called as sternum, and laterally, sidesally it has a ribs. So can we say this is the lung, laterally, in the lateral side it has a ribs like this. It protects the lungs. Now coming to the next, is this part clear? I've just given the introduction so that the rapport will be created here. In detail, we'll take up in the next class. We'll study exactly how the respiration will take place, or how the mechanism, how the ribs or the muscles which helps in the respiration. Now generally what we have studied today, we have just generalized what is respiration. Then we have discussed types difference between respiration and breathing. Then we have discussed between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Then we have discussed about the various respiratory structures. Then we have discussed about the parts of human respiratory system. Now, before I wind up, the admission process have already started and they are already filling with the seats. If any of your friends are willing to join our college, we welcome them. They can take up the admission, prior admission now, and they can avail for the concession. And the model paper discussions will be done once you are done with your 10th syllabus. Okay, before your examination, we conduct the model paper. We conduct a series of model paper discussion which has enhanced the marks of our previous batch as well. And if there is any doubts, you can contact us, okay, regarding the examinations or the question paper patterns. Most of the schools will be giving you that, but still, just for the enhancement purpose, okay, to enhance your marks, it might be your CBSE board or state board, we will provide with the model papers, and that model paper will be discussed in the class itself. And we have good results. When we speak about the results of Excel, we are one of the well-known institute in the Karnataka, and one of the when we compare the faculties, we have the best faculties for your all the subjects. It might be physics, chemistry, mathematics or biology. And coming to the results, when we speak about the results, we have 248 students who are allotted for the medical colleges in this year, and there are 18 students who are in the IITs, studying in IITs. And recent result, if you see the result 2 days back, we have got our NDA result, phase 2 result. There are 13 students who has been qualified and selected for the SSB, and we give the SSB training as well. Once the students get qualified for the NDA, the student will be sent for SSB training as well. So we have all the types of coaching. It might be NEET, JEE, or if you are willing for CET, NDA, NATA, and any of the other competitive examinations. Okay. And if any of your friends or families who have not yet enrolled are willing to join science, recommend our college, and you can expect the good results as well. Thank you.